Okay, thanks for joining us, everybody. Here we are with the lovely Kate Munning. We are Foodshed Alliance presenting this wonderful specialty crop program. We're funded by a USDA specialty crop block grant. So our goal is to promote specialty crops for the beautiful community. That's, everything from veggies and herbs and fruits and um, Christmas trees, even pretty much anything except a commodity grain. So we are here to learn about how to hack your veggie haul. So use everything you can from your farmer's market haul or your CSA share, debunking all of those veggies that you might not know what to do with and figuring out new creative ways to do so. So Kate is here, a curious cook, gardener, and lifelong learner. She is coming to us with lots of beautiful knowledge, and she is connected to the community supported garden at Genesis Farm. And I will let her introduce herself a little bit more if she chooses. And take it away, Kate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Tess. Hi, I'm Kate Munning. It's true. I was raised basically at Genesis Farm. My family belonged to the farm when I was a child. My parents were big. We had a garden of our own, raised a lot of vegetables, ate a lot of vegetables growing up. And then I moved away. And when I moved back, I returned to the farm. And as an adult, I realized just how special it is. I didn't always know this much about vegetables, obviously. Sorry, that's kind of a silly thing to say, but it was really exciting how being exposed to the variety of crops they grow at the community supported garden at Genesis Farm made me curious about what I could do with them. And at this point, I guess maybe I got a little obsessed. This is just my niche. And I'm so excited whenever these vegetables come around because I eat so seasonally now. I'm so excited to work with whatever is coming down the pike. And this is a really interesting time of year. We think of spring as everything like exploding and all these spring vegetables coming in, and that's true. But it does take a little bit of time to work up momentum. So interestingly, for a farm like Genesis, like May and June can be a little bit slow to start depending on the weather, depending on any number of factors. And so you'll get a lot of greens, but like peas aren't ready yet. Peas won't be ready for a few more weeks. A lot of like things like spring root crops like beets and carrots won't be ready for a little while. And then you have things like broccoli. Those are going to take a little bit longer too. But like with that said, you can see that we have quite a lot to work with. And I'm also going to be talking about some of the things that are going to be coming in the next few weeks and what we can do with them. I also want to say that my perspective on meal planning and on cooking in general is putting vegetables at the center of the plate. A lot of times, especially in American culture, we put protein at the center of the plate. Protein is important, and I make sure I always want protein in every meal. However, what I plan around is what vegetables I have available, and those vegetables are coming from my garden or they're coming from Genesis. I mean, I also go to local farmers markets at different times because sometimes people are growing really cool things or there are farmers that I want to support. But I'm usually prioritizing things that are seasonal and things that I can get locally as much as possible. So something that we definitely have in abundance right now is greens. Like you can see this entire tier of greens. We have lettuce, we have spinach, we have romaine, and here we have escarole. And we an easy way to kind of classify greens or think about how to treat them when we're cooking is we talk about tender greens and we talk about hardy greens. Tender greens are going to be ones that your first thought would be to put them in a salad. And then hardy greens are greens that will stand up to cooking of some sort. So lettuce, we mostly eat lettuce raw, although the French do cook lettuce with butter and peas and lemon, and that's very tasty too. I prefer my lettuce raw personally. I'm going to talk a little bit about some really some fun salad recipes in a minute. And then there are also hardy greens like this escarole, and I think escarole might be a little challenging for some people, although I love it. I love escarole and I have really come to embrace it. And I like it because it does stand up to cooking. Because like we love salads. I often eat a salad for lunch, but there are only so many salads that one family can eat, right? And I like these because I can put them in a few different things that make for like a hearty dinner that feels a little bit more substantial than a salad. More than a salad often does, because we're also going to be talking about hearty meal salads, but that's later. So my absolute favorite dead simple thing to do with escarole is to make beans and greens. And this is like, it's such a classic nonna recipe, like an Italian grandma recipe. And it takes 15 minutes and you have dinner. You cut this off the core, you chop it up a little bit into like, just like bite-sized pieces, and make sure it's clean, of course. And then you throw some alliums in a pot, like it could be garlic, it could be onions, it could be whatever you like, scallions, whatever you like, with maybe some olive oil. Saute up the garlic, throw a can of beans in there, throw this in there, maybe cook some pasta on the side if you feel like it, or maybe some grains if you feel like it, and it's dinner. And you can add things to it. You can add herbs, you can add chilies, you can add a different protein to it if you prefer, but really it's really that simple. And it's something that my family loves. It's become one of our essential comfort foods at my house. And another thing that's fun to do with hearty greens, which again can be, some people are like how do I cook my greens, is of course other kinds of soups like spinach. One of my favorite recipes. Wait, oh yeah, here we got some spinach right here. And spinach from Genesis is absolutely gorgeous. One of my go-to soups that is good either hot or cold is this recipe from, I don't know if you all know Samin Nosrat. She's one of my favorite chefs of all time. Just such a wonderful person and such a wonderful chef. And she has her book Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat that is just iconic. And she has this soup that she makes with blended up spinach, tahini, cilantro, chilies, and lemon. It sounds like such an unexpected combination, and yet it totally comes together. It's greater than the sum of its parts, and it's absolutely delicious. And when you get a pound of spinach in your CSA share, which does happen if you're a Genesis member, and you're like, oh my gosh, a pound of spinach is like this much, and it can be intimidating. And that's what you do. You cook it down into something tasty that you can keep in the fridge for a few days. And what I do is I will often, in fact, I'm literally doing this tomorrow. Tomorrow night, our dinner is going to be spinach tahini soup with grilled cheese. And I'm actually going to use the last of our Genesis sauerkraut on those sandwiches as well. And then it makes a lot. The recipe makes a lot. So when after dinner, there are inevitably going to be leftovers, and then I'm going to eat it for lunch for the next few days. And that is one of my favorite ways to use the spinach. And then something else that I do, if there's really so many greens that you have like all different random kinds of greens, especially hearty greens. We're not talking lettuce here. I like to make, you can actually bake them into kind of like a dry stew, which I know it sounds kind of strange. It's not something that we really do in our culture, but in Spanish and Italian cultures, they have something called, I don't know, the word I'm about to use is French. So I guess it's French, Spanish, and Italian. They call it different things depending on the country, but it's the same idea, where you take bread and broth and alliums and greens and often cheese, because cheese makes everything better in my opinion. And you basically bake them all together into like kind of like a dry soup, and it is so delicious. So that's something when I go into the fridge and I say, oh my gosh, I'm a little intimidated by the greens I have, and I'm not sure how much longer they're going to last. Then it's time to make a panade, and you use some stale bread or some croutons, and you throw it all in a dish, and you bake it at a low heat for a while, and it's really delicious. It's very delicious. Oh, by the way, if anything I say here interests you, I'd be happy to share recipes for any of these things. So just email me afterwards, and I'd be happy to get the recipes to you. I also have a number of books here, and if any of these catch your eye, but you'd like to know more about them, just give me a holler, and I'm happy to talk to you about them. So yeah, the hardy greens are, I appreciate hardy greens because they really do make a meal out of greens, and it doesn't just feel like you're like a rabbit, just like eat. Sometimes we get a little, I love lettuce so much, but I'm not going to eat it every single day. I'm not going to eat it for every single meal. So this really feels like dinner, when you're cooking the hardy greens. And then, but as for the tender greens, like I know I just undersold them, but no, they really are so wonderful. And I do eat a lot of salads. Maybe I should have started with salads. I don't know. We do eat a ton of salads at our house, and really the way to make them not boring is to have a little repertoire of basic salads that you can switch up with seasonal ingredients, to have a few dressings that you really love that you can add to your salad. So I have like a few different kinds of salads that I make. So I'll have like the green salad with the vinaigrette, and that might take a few different forms. That's gonna have whatever, I'm just gonna use what we have in the fridge. So if I have beets and goat cheese and vinaigrette with lettuce, that's one way to serve them. Maybe I'll do it with tomatoes and cucumbers, even if they're not in season, and we all go to the shop right sometimes, and that's okay. And get things that really round out our salad. And also, like, your salad should be something that you enjoy. So like I said, I said that I eat very seasonally, but also it also has to be something that you enjoy. It has to be sustainable. So whatever you want to add to these meals, whatever you want to put on the pile to make these delicious and make these so that you're going to want to keep eating these vegetables, large quantities of vegetables, just do it. Just add what you like. Add what you like. You don't have to be religious about it. Food is supposed to be fun and delicious. So whatever you think is delicious, you should add to your salads. Another one I do is I have this like buttermilk dressing, this like buttermilk feta. It's like buttermilk feta, lemon, chives, and garlic. And so that's another dressing that I use for something that's a little bit heartier. So if I was going to be, when it's not quite time for this yet, but often I'll have greens, and then I'll saute some like corn and peppers and onions, or again, allium of your choice. And then put that on as a salad, and you could put some beans on there. You can put some grilled chicken on there, and that's a really good one too. You could take it in an Asian direction, and you could add some mint, like this mint from my garden, and you could make it with like chilies and lime, and you could take it in an Asian direction to get those flavors. So just having a few salad dressing recipes at your disposal, and not just buying like a bottle of ranch and just having that in the fridge all the time. Like, we can do a little bit better than that. We can do better than that. And again, happy to help. If you want some recipes, happy to send them to you. It's really, once you get a few recipes down, it's really, honestly, I'm going to be one of those people. It's really easier and cheaper to make it yourself. And it's going to be much higher quality, and it's going to taste much better than buying the 9 out of the 10 salad dressings that you're going to buy at the store. So
wait, can I jump in with a question? Because I religiously save the ends of all of my like mustard jars, and it drives my partner crazy because I want to make salad dressings out of them, but I'm like I don't have the right proportions because I'm just using like the teeniest amount. And I've never tried to just say like, hey, I'm gonna, use all of these ingredients that I've decided are salad dressing. Like, so this is not a very coherent question, but I guess like, A, I would love your salad dressing recipes. And B, like, do you have any recommendations on like using those last little bits? And like ratios, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I'm going to say is that anything that you think the flavor of mustard would be good in, just add it to the salad dressing, right? Like, there are some situations that might not fit. Like, you don't want to put mustard in your Thai salad dressing, right? But something that's really cool about mustard is that it's an emulsifier. So when you add any dressing that you add it to, it's going to make it seem a little bit like creamier, actually. So it actually, mustard, even the tiniest bit of mustard can add a little bit of texture to your salad dressing. So even if it's not going to be the dominant flavor, if it's, just throw it in there. It really isn't, in most cases. I'm trying to think. I'm sure somebody can think of a situation where it wouldn't work, but most like Western European flavor profiles, mustard is gonna be a good addition to that, like 9 times out of 10. It's a good, yeah. So I say just throw it in there and it'll add texture and it'll add just a little bit of flavor. So, but there are golden ratios for salad dressings, but of course I'm always in iconoclast and I don't like so they often use way more oil. I like things really tangy, so I often use like closer to even numbers of oil and vinegar, or maybe like I think that people will add like 3 parts oil to 1 part acid, and I think that's way too much oil. I prefer something that's way more like flavor forward. I mean, the oil is important, don't get me wrong, but so again, I'd be happy to email you and you can like tell me a little bit more about what you like, because I have like actually have like 3 or 4 vinaigrette recipes that I use. I have one that's like very herb forward that uses a lot of thyme, which I love because I have this big lemon thyme plant on my deck. So I love this thyme forward dressing. I love that one. And then I have one that's more like mustard forward that has like the mustard and the shallots and that's like very classic French. I have one that has like balsamic and tarragon in it, and that's one that I use for this like meal salad that I really like. So we can talk offline. I'm happy to, you can tell me what sounds good to you, or I can send you all of them. I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I hope that was helpful. I don't know if that was helpful, but I say just
No, for sure.
That's the real answer.
That's really helpful. Pickle juice is another thing that I save a lot of, and I use that as the vinegar, but I don't know if that doesn't go with everything.
I absolutely
love that.
I have these pickled jalapenos that I love to use for everything, and they're not super spicy, and so I absolutely use that in salads as the vinegar all the time, because we use a lot of them, so I have a lot of the brine left over. And another thing that's good for salads, but really just good for everything in the spring, is herbs. And herbs are so we often kind of think of them as an afterthought, but you can grow a ton of herbs. You can get like at Genesis, for example, there will be times when, like last week at Genesis, there was this huge box of oregano, and you could just, and it was on what we call the sharing table, and you could just take as much as you wanted. And you could just take like this much oregano, and you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to use it? Like, what do I do with it? And the thing is, we're not used to thinking of herbs as essential, but you can absolutely make them essential. In fact, I think that people would enjoy their vegetables much more if they were using more herbs, especially when they're in season and not so expensive. Because, you also don't want to go out and, you go to the grocery store and you get like that tiny little clamshell for like $3. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when they're in season. Or if you have a little spot on your balcony or in a windowsill, you can grow a huge pot of parsley. You can grow a huge pot of basil. Even the ones, I have friends who've gotten those pots of basil from the supermarket and kept them alive for like literally years. So it is, I mean, that doesn't work for me, but it works for some people. So it is possible. And this is the perfect time to do it. I just bought some herbs from Wellsweep Farm, which is down the street from me, my favorite place to get live herbs. And I have these 2 huge, sorry, I'm gesturing to my deck, which is right here. And I have these 2 huge pots on the deck. One is a huge pot of this lemon thyme, and the other is a huge pot of Italian oregano. And I love having them there because I can just go out and I can just clip as much as I want. And when you have something like a lot of oregano, you're like, okay, I'm going to plan my meal around this oregano tonight. So what am I going to do? Okay, I'm going to make a chimichurri sauce. I'm going to use the mint from my garden. I'm going to use whatever garlic product is in season right now. I'm going to use some citrus or vinegar or whatever, and you can kind of create a condiment around whatever herbs you have. So condiments and dressings. Yeah, I feel like people really undervalue condiments and dressings. Like, I'm obsessed with wonderful condiments. Like chimichurri is a great example. I did take that huge pile of oregano, and I mixed it with mint and chilies and vinegar and olive oil, and it's like the best dressing for steak that you've ever had in your life. And if you don't eat steak, you could easily put it on seitan, you could put it on beans, you could put it on a lot of things, and it makes anything more delicious, especially on the grill. I don't know, like the fresh chimichurri with something that's like smoky and grilled. Oof, dynamite flavor combination. Let's see. What's next? Oh, next I was going to talk about garlic, because I love garlic. I'm such a garlic girl. And this is a weird time of year because garlic is, most of you probably know this, but in case you don't, for those of you who don't, garlic is planted in the fall and then it grows over the winter and then it's harvested in like July. And so like the folks at Genesis are very good at overwintering things, but they're only human. And by April, the last year's garlic is getting a little dry and sad. And so like April, May, June are a very sad time for me because I don't really like buying garlic at the store. It is not the same as local garlic. And so it's a little tough for me, I'll be honest with you. Fortunately, we do have some garlic products or garlic, I don't know. Anyway, different forms of garlic. How about that? We have different forms of garlic that we can enjoy at this time. And the first one is green garlic. And this is basically like a cull. This is a cull. And it's funny, what's kind of cool is that these two ingredients that I'm about to talk about, these are basically waste products, even though we pay lots and lots of money for them at the farmer's market. But I love that. I think that's wonderful. I think that these are precious and they should be, it's okay to pay money for them because they're very special. So when you have got a lot of garlic and you maybe have too much garlic, you can harvest it now, or you can actually, they probably plant it so that they can harvest it at this stage. And this is green garlic. So this is garlic where the bulb either hasn't formed yet or it's just starting to form. And what's nice about it is that you can eat this entire stalk. And soon if this was left in the ground, this would turn into the garlic bulb. And then this part would get very dry. And you wouldn't be able to, and there's like a core in the middle of it. This is hardneck garlic. And so you wouldn't be able to eat it. But at this stage, oh my gosh, I can smell it. It smells so good. Literally making this for dinner tonight. We're doing a stir fry with bok choy and some nice oyster mushrooms and green garlic. And in a fried rice dish. And this is so good. This is so good. There's not enough of it. That's really my issue. I use so much garlic that I wish there was more of this. And then the other thing that we love to use is scapes. And these are scapes from my garden that I just realized it's time to cut. I got to go back out after we're done here and cut the rest of them because it's time. And the scape is really, this is what would become a flower if we left it to go. I don't know if you've ever seen that in your garden or on a farm. This would flower, but what we don't want the garlic to flower because we want that energy to stay in the bulbs to make those garlic cloves nice and juicy. So we cut these off so that it stops putting energy into making a flower and it keeps the energy down in the ground and makes for bigger garlic heads and better tasting garlic heads. And you know, I have to say my favorite thing to do with scapes is to make pesto. I love scape pesto. It's so delicious. It's really easy. Sometimes there will be like so much of it and so many scapes. And so at the right time, we'll just make a ton of scape pesto and and then you can just throw it in the freezer if you can't, you know, because there's only so much scape pesto you can use in one week, right? So, and I make a standard version that has Parmesan, just make it very similar to like a regular basil pesto. And I'll use whatever herbs I have available. Usually I probably don't use basil because it's not quite time for basil yet and there's not a ton of it. So I might use things like parsley and thyme, but you can really use whatever herbs you like best, and Parmesan and olive oil. I also make a vegan version with soaked cashews. And I actually really like that version quite a lot. Sometimes it's even, I don't know, sometimes I even prefer that version because it's more of like a blank canvas for whatever you want. It doesn't have I love Parmesan, but sometimes it's nice to have just kind of like that smooth, creamy, nutty taste, and then put it in for whatever you happen to be making. If you make a dish that you want some other flavors to involve some other flavors in. Let's see, what else do we have here? This is an embarrassment of riches here. Well, we can talk about these little treats right here. I never knew these existed before I got them at Genesis, and these are salad turnips or hickory turnips. These, I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of turnips generally, but these are so delicious. And I know that radishes are very fancy, and everybody loves radishes. And I also love radishes, but I actually prefer the texture and the crunchiness of a salad turnip to a radish. I mean, the radish is beautiful. You really can't beat this, but these are like these are like such a treat. I get so excited to see these in the springtime, because we've been starved for juicy, delicious vegetables over the winter time. Been eating nothing but root vegetables for months and months. So like I don't really have any ideas for exciting things to do with turnips and radishes because I love them so much that they don't make it, like they often don't even make it home, let alone last long enough to do anything other than eat them in your hand or put them in a salad, because they're just delicious that way. I love them that way. I made a really great salad yesterday. Yeah, I think it was yesterday. And I used these, I did turnips and shaved green peppers and white beans and that oregano, a ton of, because of course there was still more oregano even after I'd made chimichurri, and a ton of oregano for a version of piyaz, which is a Turkish salad. So I took the base recipe for piyaz and I bulked it up with other good things that we had in the fridge that were a little more in season than green peppers, which are not in season right now, but still tasty and still tasted really good in that salad. Let's see.
Kate, do you do anything with the greens, the turnip or radish greens?
I do, so these are, sometimes, yes. So I have, honestly, these I'll either stir fry them if I'm making something Asian, like I'm making an Asian dish, or honestly, my favorite thing to do with these kinds of greens, like something that's like a little bit bitter, because I love things that are bitter, is I pickle them. I have this dead simple pickling brine that I got from Savor magazine. And I often just like have a jar in my fridge that we'll use it up and then I'll boil it again, throw more greens in, and then just put it back in the fridge. And it lasts forever because it's super acidic and super salty. And I often do that. So I have these volunteer mustard greens, and we also get a lot of mustard greens from our CSA share. And so, like I was saying with the panades, like every once in a while I'll be like, wow, we have a lot of bitter greens right now, more than we're gonna eat in this week. And then I'll just make a batch of those pickles, and it'll be there when we need them, right? Because then we've gotten rid of the urgency of using them up. And then I'll probably use them in a similar fashion. Like I'll put them as a side dish, like as little, not a condiment really, like a cross between a condiment and a vegetable on the side of like a stir fry or or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions right now? No? All right.
I did just want to note something that you touched on earlier. You were talking about adding beans to your salad. And that's something that I learned from you years ago. And it's like a salad game changer. And I just kind of wanted to make sure that people heard that happening, because like you just put chickpeas or, like red beans or something in a salad, and it's like, it just it adds texture to it, it adds protein, and it just makes me really happy. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, that's what I try to do is when I have a salad, I'm like, okay, what can I add to this salad to make it a meal? So I don't have to make a separate thing, right? If we're trying to make a simple meal. So like, can I put an egg on top of this? Can I add, oh, that's the other, that's what I often do with the pickled vegetables. I love to make a rice bowl with, again, whatever vegetables happen to be on hand. They might be fresh vegetables. They might be sauteed vegetables, put some pickled greens on the side, and then put a fried egg on top. Boom, dinner. So easy, so delicious. Love that. Yes, can I put an egg on top of this? Can I put some tinned fish on top of this? Can I put some beans on top of this? And then you have a meal, which is pretty great. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. One thing that I didn't say about salads, because I really love salads, is that some hardy greens can make a salad as well. And I was going to call out a few of my favorite hardy green salads. And that is, there's this kale salad, and it's from this restaurant in New York City called Barbuto. And it's really, really good. And it's it's like, I know this was really hot like years ago, like the massaged kale salad. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. You basically slice raw kale really, really thin. And then you massage this like lemony anchovy garlicky dressing into it, and then you toss it with crispy breadcrumbs and some basil. Oh, it's so good, it's so good. And then another one that I love that actually is it's kind of a similar similar format is radicchio, because I'm a huge fan of radicchio. And it's kind of a similar thing. You slice it somewhat thin, a little more rustic than you do the kale salad. And it's a similar thing. You have hard-boiled eggs, anchovies, breadcrumbs. That one's from the Zuni Cafe, which I have their cookbook here. It's like one of their iconic salads, and it's for good reason. For good reason, it totally delivers. And you could easily put something else on top if you wanted to put like grilled salmon on top. If you wanted to throw some chickpeas in there, that would probably be really tasty. And my other, then I was going to talk about my other salad, my other spring salad I'm looking forward to. When we have a lot of broccoli, when the broccoli starts to come in, I make this salad that is not my recipe. It's from this woman, her name is Heidi, and this is from a long time ago. I've been making this for many years, called 101 Cookbooks. And it's one of these salads just greater than the sum of its parts. I'm going to read this so I don't forget anything. Broccoli, romaine, pistachios, feta, avocado, and this tarragon balsamic dressing. Oh my gosh, so delicious. Again, happy to send it to you if you're interested. Love that. And it's one of these meals that just tastes really, it's just a salad, but it's really a meal in and of itself, which is terrific. And then there's some unconventional salads that are not made, that don't really prioritize greens. And this book right here, 6 Seasons, this is a really interesting book. If you don't know this guy, Joshua McFadden, this book is all about seasonal eating. And it's called 6 Seasons, because even, we traditionally divide things into 4 seasons, but he makes it a little bit more specific in a way that's genuinely helpful. Like I said, like this is spring, but we don't have peas yet. And, you're probably seeing, I know for me, I follow a lot of like food magazines and things, and they're like, oh, this is what you should do with your peas and your this and your that. Like, I don't have that stuff yet. It's not springtime yet. And this book acknowledges that, which I actually appreciate. They talk about like the seasons are a little bit more, there's a little bit more going on than just these like 4 chunks. They're not, the years are broken up into 4 chunks that neatly. So something that that he makes in his book is this shredded carrot salad. Oh my gosh, I love it. And it has a ton of herbs. And again, that's anchovies. And if you don't eat anchovies, that's okay. I love anchovies, which is why I just realized I've mentioned 3 salads with anchovies in them. But you can absolutely substitute other umami flavors for anchovies if that's not your thing, or if you don't, or if you're strictly vegetarian. And it's so good. And then you put a burrata on top. So you have this super hearty salad that is made with a ton of parsley and garlic, I think, some kind of allium. I think it's garlic, parsley, garlic, lemon, shredded carrots, walnuts, and then you put and I like to add chili flakes too, because I think that makes almost everything better. And then you put a burrata on top. Oh my gosh, again, it's a meal right there. Get your whole meal. He also has another one. This one is really interesting, and this is like really any hearty green of your choice. They say to use collard greens, but collard greens aren't my favorite, I'll be honest. And so I use kale. And it has roasted mushrooms and this really creamy cashew butter dressing that is dynamite. It's so good. Oh wow, I've been talking for a long time. Okay, let me move this along a little bit. So some other things. What are some other things that we like to do with spring vegetables? I think I said this last time. I think that some of you were here last time. I think that the key to a successful meal plan that involves using seasonal vegetables regularly and using what you have, instead of going to the store and then trying to figure out how to cram these vegetables from the farmer's market into your weekly meal plan, is having some techniques or some formulas that you can change up the ingredients in. So we do that with stir fries at our house. So you have rice or you have grains, and you can stir fry some vegetables and then and whatever vegetables you happen to have with whatever flavors you happen to like best. And then you can put that over rice, over noodles. Another thing that we do is make frittatas at our house, because we have chickens and we have a lot of eggs, especially this time of year. And so again, taking what we have, so I'll make a spinach and I'll make a spinach and feta frittata with like loads of herbs, whatever I happen to have lying around. And it's something that we all enjoy because like, you know, it tastes different. It's like new, it tastes new, even though you're kind of cheating. I don't want to say cheating, but you have this technique down, you have this formula down, and then you can just kind of throw in what you already have. And that is, I don't know, it takes a lot of like the stress out of meal planning for me anyway. Something else that I like to do that I think is really fun, especially for this time of year when I want to be using the oven a little less than I was in the winter time, is pancakes. I love vegetable pancakes. There are, especially in the Asian tradition, you have Japanese pancakes, okonomiyaki, which are really, there's this recipe from the New York Times that uses just so many vegetables, and you just kind of mix up this batter, and it's so delicious. And you can use dashi, you don't have to use dashi, the seaweed stock if you want to, but it adds like that Japanese umami, vegetable umami sea flavor, ocean flavor that's really nice. And then in the Korean tradition, they have jeon, which they have, often they're made with kimchi, but again, you can really make them with whatever vegetables will stand up. You can make them with bok choy, with spinach, with green garlic. You can make them with a lot of different things that we have here. You can make them with carrots. I've seen them in restaurants made with carrots. So again, you take this batter and you can customize it with what you like best and with what works for you. And yeah, like a lot of people think of a stir fry. I know I just said stir fry, and often we have like one thing in mind when we think of a stir fry, but like Asia is an entire continent, and there are so many different flavors from so many different cultures there. So you could have a stir fry where oyster sauce is the dominant ingredient. You could have a stir fry where lemongrass is the dominant ingredient and the dominant flavor, and then you have it more like Thai inspired. You can have one where sriracha is the dominant flavor. You can have Szechuan peppercorns, and it's funny when we think stir fry, you just think of like, I mean, I know even I have been making stir fries for many years, and you just kind of think of like that stir fry with soy sauce and maybe ginger that like your mom would make. It's so much more than that. And thanks to the internet, there are so many recipes out there. I have so many cookbooks. There are so many like recipe portals that have really, really wonderful, unintimidating Asian recipes that sometimes require specialty ingredients, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes, and especially nowadays, like our ShopRites are really well stocked around here. You can find most of what you need within like 10 or 20 miles of your home, whether it's at, like I have a little vegetable store over here near me that is run by Korean people, and they have really wonderful Asian condiments there. But again, I can get a lot of what I need at the ShopRite. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Like think about different cultural foodways and how you can use what we have here. Because another thing is that people think that, oh, I have to use like bean sprouts or what, like they think they have very specific ideas in mind for what they need to use when they're cooking food from a certain culture. But what I have found is that most of the people I know from other cultures, they use what they have, and they're not going to let anything go to waste. And so I know plenty of Asian people who are members of Genesis Farm, and they're going to take the recipes that they know that that are their everyday recipes, and they're going to adapt them for what they have around. So it's literally like the most Italian or Chinese thing that you can do is to adapt your soup, your stir fry, or whatever with the vegetables that are literally in your environment at any given time. That's like the most legit thing that you can do. So don't be afraid to make substitutions at all. Oh yeah, that was my frittata formula. Oh yeah, I was gonna say that I'm really big into food preservation, but you know, the spring isn't the best for many vegetables. Many of the vegetables that are coming in the spring are more tender vegetables that are really better suited for being used, you know, fresh. I mean, first of all, they're going to taste better that way, but also a lot of them have a high water content, and they might not, like, you know, you're not going to freeze your lettuce, you know, you're not going to freeze a radish, and it's not going to taste good when it comes out. But there are a few things like the mustard greens would be good pickled. Scapes are also very good pickled. I love pickling scapes. They're very tasty that way. but a lot of them you're really gonna want to eat right away. And oh, sorry, I just completely forgot what I was gonna say next. So maybe this is a good time to ask if people have any questions or comments. Anybody?
I know you mentioned pickling brine that you have like ready to go. Can you talk about that pickling brine again?
Yeah, sure. It's honestly, it's very basic. I mean, I can even look it up on my phone and just tell you right now. It's very, very easy. It's like vinegar, salt, sugar, and that's pretty much it, I think. Hold on, let me check. There it is.
While you're
And I
doing
think a
that,
follow-up question. Sorry,
Yeah.
go ahead, Joe.
I was going to add a follow-up question to Tess's question. Because Tess, you noted earlier that you save your brines from pickles. So if you have a brine you like, Kate, how do you feel about reusing brines?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I am a huge fan of reusing brines, and I do it all the time. This is literally 2 tablespoons of salt. So sorry, no, see, I'm sorry. You really should email me, because I just realized that I totally messed with this formula when I use it. I don't know, this is something that I do is I'll have a recipe as a jumping off point, and then I will, if I use it for a really long time, I usually tinker with it, and then I realize that something that there's a flavor, I adjust it to my palate, right? As we all should do with our food. Like, you don't have to make it as it's written. This basically salt, sugar, white vinegar, so just like straight up white vinegar, greens, and this adds chilies, which I think is good. You could also add garlic to it. You could add any of these. You could add green garlic. You could add garlic scapes. You could really add whatever you like to it, but this is a really nice canvas. This is a really nice blank slate to add really whatever you like. You know what? These, I know I just said that a lot of these things aren't good for pickling. These little salad turnips are awesome pickled. They're very good. In fact, if you made the, if you pickled like Asian greens and turnips and garlic and chilies, holy cow, that's actually really delicious. I want to eat that right now.
And just my follow-up question was gonna be, do you prefer like a hot brine versus a refrigerator quick pickle?
Oh, well, it's still kind of a quick pickle. I'm not, okay, so I'll just, I'm not sure if we're using the same terminology, so I'll just tell you what I do. I fill the jar up with greens, and then I boil the brine, I pour it over, and then I put it in the fridge. So it just wilts, because I don't want it to, I'm not making these shelf stable or anything. These are definitely all quick pickles. Because they're not, you're not going to want to keep them for months and months. They're really going to be better eaten in the next like month or so, probably, that they'll be better that way. But yeah, so I just, squish fill the jar as much with greens as you possibly can, because they're going to wilt down. As we all know, they're going to wilt down to almost nothing. You pour the brine over, they'll wilt hot brine, pour the hot brine over, they'll wilt immediately, and then I'll let it cool on the counter, and then when it's like room temperature, I'll put it in the fridge.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm like, for some reason I was distinguishing like, I don't know if I've ever actually boiled a brine before, but honestly, I think it's probably because I'm reusing brines, like Joe said.
Right. Now, I will often when I reuse a brine, I will often boil it, depending on what I'm pickling. I don't do this with cucumbers, because I prefer crispy cook. I prefer my cucumbers as cooked as little as possible. But when I reuse a brine, I'll often boil it, like partly for safety, although you don't really have to worry about safety. But I don't know. I feel like it kind of wakes it up a little bit, and then also it does kind of help the flavors absorb into whatever you're pickling a little bit better if they get hit with that hot brine rather than a cold brine. But again, it's really up to what you like. If you want something like really lightly pickled, you could take one of these turnips, chop it up, put it in your pickle jar and cold, and after a few days it'll still taste like pickles. It'll just be a little more lightly pickled than but it'll also be crispy, right? Because you haven't cooked it at all. So
That makes sense. Thank you.
you're welcome. What else? What do people want to know? Because that's the thing, like, this is all the stuff that I'm excited about, but I'm also happy to talk people through vegetables that they don't know what to do with, or if you think you might not like something, because that's definitely happened to me. I used to not like cabbage, and now it's like one of my favorite vegetables, so it happens to the best of us. Anybody?
You mentioned radicchio before, which that's one for me that I haven't gotten there yet, and I want to. And I grow it every year because why not? But I don't eat it. So I have a disconnect on like what to do with it. I tried to grill it once, but I burnt it and it didn't taste very good. So maybe just try that again. What's your favorite thing to do with radicchio?
Do you like things that are bitter or not so much?
Yeah.
You do? Okay, so I mean, I feel like a really great gateway salad is if you're working with radicchio, is to slice it pretty thinly and then put like a really nice thick balsamic on it and like some Parmesan and some herbs. That is one of my favorite salads, and you have like the bitter is offset by the sweet. If you get a balsamic that's like both sweet and tangy at the same time, then you get, it's like really nice combination of flavors. So if you have the bitter radicchio, you have the sweet and tangy dressing, maybe like a nice drizzle of nice olive oil, maybe some herbs and some shaved Parmesan. Oof, that's a really nice. I mean, and have you ever tried it like that with that kind of, with those flavors? I would highly recommend that. It's one of my favorites. Anybody else? Oh, I was gonna talk about this kohlrabi. This is so random, but I'll do it because I have it right here. Because kohlrabi is genuinely intimidating. I'll be honest, I don't cook with it that much. But what I do like to do with it, a lot of the recipes that I looked it up just to see, like, what do people do with kohlrabi? Because I know what I do with it, but I kind of only do one thing with it. And a lot of people roast it. I'm gonna be honest, that's not my favorite. A lot of people don't know what to do with kohlrabi. They don't know where it comes from. It's actually related to cabbage and broccoli. And I kind of think of it, I realized when I was thinking through what I do with kohlrabi, it reminds me a little bit of a broccoli stem, which, because it is a brassica and it has like that crunchy cabbagey broccoli cut type flavor. And I love to make a slaw out of it. That's my favorite thing, to shave it as thin as I can and to make a nice bright slaw, usually with some other vegetables mixed in with it, maybe some like maybe some celery or some carrots, or some other good crunchy things. That's mostly what I do with it. I know people like to put it in soups and roast it. And I'm sure that's good too. It's not my favorite thing to do with it though.
For your slaw, do you peel it, or you just?
I do. I peel it and then I slice it on a mandolin. And then it depends. I might slice it on a mandolin and keep them as like little thin slices, and then, or I might julienne it and keep it and make it, or I might like make it more grated. But I actually kind of like it in thin slices. I like it in thin slices. Is that it? Are we done here?
Hey, yeah, I actually had a question about like the cabbage that you mentioned. I never get it because I never know what to do with it. So I'd love to hear what you do with your cabbage.
I will tell you my favorite thing to do with cabbage, and it's so easy. Like it's so easy, and yet for me it was a revelation when I made this. And it's also a really great story because there's this organization called League of Kitchens, and it is all immigrant grandmas in the New York City area, and they do cooking classes. And so you can get women from all over the world are teaching these cooking classes, often in their homes. So I took an Uzbek cooking class in Crown Heights, and it was unbelievable. I really love Central Asian food, and I don't know, I just find it to be really fascinating, this confluence of cultures. And so she made this cabbage salad that I make all the time. And you shred it as thinly as possible, and then you dress it very simply. You dress it with cider vinegar, garlic, olive oil, a ton of dill, and thinly sliced cucumbers. I love the salad. We eat the salad probably weekly, I would say. And I also, it's something that I like to I'll put it in different configurations. So I'll put avocado on it. It's dynamite with avocado. You can put chickpeas in it if you want to. It's really good with salmon because you have like the dill, you have like the tangy dill crunchy salad with salmon on the side. That's all really wonderful. It's so simple, and even now you're probably like, what, that doesn't really sound that great. I'm telling you, it's really great. It's really good. It's so good.
That sounds awesome. Thank you.
It is. I mean, also, okay, but what else do I do with cabbage? I like grilled cabbage, and in fact, this recipe, 6 seasons, I'll be happy to send you this recipe. You cut your cabbage into wedges and you kind of like sear it. You can either do it in the oven under the broiler, or you can do it in a pan and sear it on both sides. You could do it on the grill, and blacken it a little bit that way. And then I know, again, with the anchovies, this super garlicky anchovy rice vinegar dressing. Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's like flavors just like punching you in the face, but in a good way. I love that too. But yeah, honestly, I do so much with cabbage now. It's really funny. I didn't used to. There's also a recipe that I think I got from the New York Times. And it's like a cabbage parmesan soup with barley, which, in a pinch, it's like a meal basically, because it's really hearty and delicious and also pretty healthy. I'm trying to think what else I do with cabbage. Those are the top ones. I can do more elaborate things, but I'm trying to keep things somewhat simple because I don't know about you, but I'm trying to simplify my meals and not sign up for making galumkis on a Wednesday night, stuffed cabbage. Any other questions?
Can you remind us the League of Grandmas the name of that actual thing?
Oh, League of Kitchens. Highly recommend it. It's a really wonderful organization. Really wonderful. Our family, my friends and family have taken a number of classes with them, and they are invariably terrific. It's just such a great.
So awesome.
Yeah, it's a true community, which is just so wonderful. Something that feels really good, and also you're learning something. And they do classes both, ever since COVID, they do classes both online or via Zoom. So depending on what your needs are, not everybody wants to go to the city. Personally, I found it really exciting to be able to go and work in somebody's home. But if your schedule doesn't allow that, or if it's not convenient for you, you can do online classes with them as well. And just so many ethnicities that I just am not familiar with, their food ways. So there's just so much to learn there.
That's really awesome. Thank you.
It is. Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody else has any questions, please jump in. But Kate, I'm definitely going to hit you up on email to maybe recap some of the recipes we talked about, and I can share that out with everybody who was here tonight and who registered ahead of time. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us. I feel like I was taking notes, and I feel like I'm really excited to try anchovies and radicchio again.
So happy, because I'm not the kind of person who just wants a big old anchovy on their pizza, but I love the flavors, like that smoky, meaty flavor with it's so powerful. You could just use a little bit in a dressing, in a sauce or something, and I really like what it adds. So I've really come around to anchovies for sure.
And I'm so excited to try some chimichurri sauce too. I have a huge oregano that I need to cut back, and I never know what to do with it because I can't use that much dried oregano. So
Yeah, right. That's the thing. It's just not the same when you dry it, and there's something about that fresh oregano that it feels like such a treat. It feels so special.
For real.
Something popped up on my screen, so I'm gonna get rid of it. I know we're almost done here, but it's still distracting me. There we go.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone else has any questions, again, feel free, or,
Please
you know.
email me. I'm so delighted to share any of my sources, any of my ideas, any of my recipes. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to share food. I'm so excited to be a vegetable evangelist. It's not, there's no secrecy here. There's no gatekeeping. I am very excited to talk to anybody who is interested in cooking with vegetables.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kate. And thank you all for coming tonight. I hope you make a delicious dinner. with
Yeah.
Something you've never tried before.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks, Tess.
Thank you. Take care.